Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Rainer. This is Rainierbooks. You are on BookTube. It is Sunday today, Sunday the 9th of January. Tomorrow I have to start working again and we have a new year. So it's time for a new segment, and so I thought I'd change the name from the weekly wrap-up that I did last year to the Sunday Sum Up. I saw that there is already a Sunday Sum Up from Amy over on Star Reads, so we have the same title. We call our weekly wrap-ups Sunday Sum Up. Let's talk about this, about the first 9 days of reading of 2022, which hopefully have been great 9 days of reading for you too. I have finished one book, and this is former US Secretary of State and Canadian best-selling thriller author or crime author Louise Penny's first common co-production novel called State of Terror, written by Hillary Rodham Clinton and Louise Penny, published by Simon and Schuster. 494 pages about a US Secretary of State and a bunch of her family and friends trying to save the United States and the world from the terror attacks planned by the ultimately evil Bashir Shah, a Pakistani citizen who is determined to destroy the Western world. The Secretary of State, Ellen Adams, she has to travel to Tehran, to Islamabad, to Frankfurt, to Moscow, and always back to Washington, D.C., and also to Palm Beach, Florida, to solve the conspiracy that also involves some high-ranked Americans in the administration. And even former President Eric Dunn plays an important role. And what about Russian President Maxim Ivanov? For all the Louise Penny fans, there is also a supporting role, I would say, for Armand Garmache, the inspector from Quebec. Since the former Secretary of State knows both former US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in real life, let me shortly read how Dunn and Maxim Ivanov are portrayed in this novel. About Eric Dunn, who Ellen Adams has to visit in Palm Beach. He was large, immense in fact. Ellen had met him many times, though only in passing at social events. She'd found him amusing, charming even, though uninterested in others and easily bored when the spotlight shifted to anyone else. Nothing mattered beyond his sphere of influence. About Maxim Ivanov, the Russian president, who has actually figured bare-chested on a horse. Ivanov was much smaller than she'd expected, but his personal presence was intense. Standing close to him felt like being next to an explosive whose trigger was held in place by a tightly strung elastic stretched to breaking. There was almost nothing between the Russian president and Bedlam. He had that and so much more in common with Eric Dunn. What was different and immediately obvious was that Maxim Ivanov was the real thing. This is a typical fast-paced thriller with lots of twists and turns that actually hold me awake almost one night when I wanted to finish this book. I wanted to know how it ends. Is the world being saved in the end or not? So you can read it very fastly. It's an entertaining novel. I would have actually, if I would be able to talk to Hillary Clinton and Louise Penny, I would love to ask them a couple questions about the plot where I had my question marks raised. But forget it, it's a satisfying and entertaining reading. Later this year, and this seems to be a new trend in crime and thriller fiction, later this year James Patterson, the great American bestseller author, will publish a country crime novel together with Dolly Parton, and most of you will know that James Patterson already has published two thrillers together with former US President and husband of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. To my current reads, I am not anymore into supermodels and I don't know their names. But I didn't know of Emily Ratajkowski's existence until last year. I heard her on a podcast that I listen to from time to time on Michael Moore podcast Rumble, and she was discussing with Michael Moore about the state of the United States, the state of human rights and feminism, and I listened to a very fascinating young woman with a lot of progressive ideas and who is very reflective about her role as a model, but also reflective about the picture, the image that she and her fellow colleagues as models give to the world. So that is where I met Emily Ratajkowski. And when I heard that she has published a book with essays entitled My Body, published by Quercus in London in 2021, I wanted to read Emily Ratajkowski. And so far I have read 2 of the essays in this volume, My Body and Blurred Lines. And Blurred Lines is actually also a music video that was done by T.I., by Peril, and by Robin Thicke, where Emily Ratajkowski, which made Emily Ratajkowski extremely famous. In this video, directed by a female video director, Diane Martel, Ratajkowski and the other girls featured, in the original version, featured bare-chested and almost naked. And the versions you can see now is they're not bare-chested anymore because YouTube doesn't allow that. But the videos went extremely viral, and also the, I would say, censored one that's up now on YouTube by Robin Thicke of the song Blurred Lines has 777 million views as of today. So this made Emily Ratajkowski famous, and she says also that she got a lot more orders, a lot more things to do after this video. And she describes how this video was done, that she felt very comfortable about being naked in front of the camera. It was an all-female crew that Diane Martel engaged, so nothing was wrong until Robin Thicke, because they were supposed to dance very freely, and so should improvise. There was no choreography there, so everybody should dance and they should move around, you know. And Emily Ratajkowski moves with her back to Robin Thicke, and suddenly she feels Thicke's hands on her breasts, and it is a break, and the director says, "No touching, please." But that's all that happened. Ratajkowski didn't complain, she didn't file anything against Thicke, who had touched her inappropriately. She didn't stop the shooting, and she also says that probably if she would have done that, her career would have gone otherwise. But now, reflecting on that scene a couple of years later, a couple of years older and more reflective, she says in that essay, with that one gesture, Robin Thicke had reminded everyone on set that we women weren't actually in charge. I didn't have any real power as the naked girl dancing around in his music video. I was nothing than the hired mannequin. Emily Ratajkowski, the essays that I haven't read yet, how they turn out. Then I am also reading, and will soon finish, Peril by Bob Woodward and Robert Costa. You can see there's a red Donald Trump and a blue Joe Biden on this cover. Peril describes the year of 2020 and the beginning of 2021, the transition between the Trump presidency and the Biden presidency. I have read a lot of this book already, and I had the same feeling that I got when I read Michael Wolff's Siege, Trump Under Fire. If you, like me, follow American politics, listen to the news, watch a couple of channels and read a lot of articles, you feel that this is a repetition for you in many, many ways. So I feel that I've read heard and read most of the book already before. So there's not much new in it. And I hope that there will be a little bit more about January 6th, where I have ended up right now in the second half of this book. News, big news. For the first time in my life, I am going to finish a graphic novel which has about 350 pages. First time I read and finish a graphic novel. And the one that I will finish is Kristen Radtke's highly acclaimed book, CQ, A Journey into American Loneliness, published by Pantheon books. And I have to add that Peril is published by Simon & Schuster. CQ by Kristen Radtke is an exploration. It's a sad, it's a very personal book. where Kristen Radtke takes up themes. She explores isolation, loneliness, and everything that is connected with that as like a creative researcher. And that what actually makes me think that this is not a graphic novel, this is more like a graphic non-fiction book. She quotes a lot of scientists who have done research about loneliness. She describes parts of our lives that we have gotten used to and that even probably lead to more loneliness. Don't talk about smartphones here. In this way, I would say that there are huge variations in this book. It also reminds me of the works of the great American painter Edward Hopper, just like 50, 60 years onwards, in a new kind of exploration of loneliness in the big city, which was, I think, one of Hopper's great themes. Let me just show you, because this is a graphic novel and you can just talk about things. We have pictures like this of empty fridges. Pictures like that reminds me a lot about of Hopper. Someone in a lit up apartment, but all the other apartments are dark. Here we have some characters. It's a beautiful book and it's a great experience reading this. I also will finish this hopefully over the course of the next week already. And the last book is a part of the Soviet book club that started in 2021 with its first read. And the first book that we are reading in the Soviet Book Club is a book called Soviet Milk by the Latvian author Nora Ipstena, translated from the Latvian by Margita Gailitis. Soviet Milk was originally published in 2015 in Latvian. It was a literary sensation in the Baltic countries. It's translated into 15 languages today, and the English translation came out by Peirene Press in London in 2018. On the surface, it's a story of a very, very difficult mother and daughter relationship in Riga, in the capital of Latvia, told by both the mother and her daughter as a first-person narrator. They are sort of take that novel in turns, take their narrative in turns. The mother has refused when she gave birth to her daughter in 1969. 1969 was also the year when the author was born. 1969, she didn't breastfeed her daughter. Later telling her that she didn't want to live anymore at that time and that she was scared that she would give that sort of feeling to her daughter. This is much about this personal relationship between mother and daughter, but also of the daughter with the grandmother and the grand stepfather, they live in a rural place just outside Riga. This is a novel about Soviet times, about living in the Soviet times, about living in the Soviet Republic of Latvia, and about the grayness, the darkness, about the KGB, the agents, the spies all around us. For example, when the mother wants to study, she is asked a lot of questions by the Secret Service, and they decide if she will be studying or not. So every aspect of life is controlled by the state. This is a very good book so far, and I hope that I also can finish it until next week, because it's a very slim book. I think it's about 130 pages only. So, booktubers, we talk mostly about books in our channels and our videos, but what about, and sometimes we talk about audiobooks, right? We talk about fiction audiobooks or non-fiction audiobooks. What happens actually with podcasts? Because last week, and actually on Friday and Saturday, 2 days ago and yesterday, I listened to a podcast that was so captivating. 6 parts, 6 hours, and I really want to recommend to you NBC's podcast called Southlake. And I read how they have described their podcast here. Southlake, Texas seems to have it all. Stately homes, intense civic pride, and above all, terrific schools. So when a video surfaced in 2018 showing Southlake high school students chanting the N-word, and when black residents came forward to share stories of racist harassment and bullying, the school board vowed to make changes. But the unveiling of a cultural competence action plan set off a backlash. that's consumed Southlake, fueled by a growing national crusade against critical race theory. Hosted by NBC News national reporter Mike Hickson-Baugh and NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton, Southlake tells the story of how this idyllic city and its local school board election became the poster child for a new political strategy with national repercussions. This is very intense. This is a wonderful podcast, a great one, an important one, and it made me cry twice, actually. Twice, both of anger and of empathy for young characters, for a black girl and a non-binary person. Imagine a young Afro-American teenage girl in Southlake, Texas, a white boy who used the N-word against her, and a headmaster who wants to solve the problem. The black girl, recorded the conversation, and you can hear it in the podcast originally, because it's legal in Texas to record a conversation without telling the other people that you recorded. That's legal. So she did a legal thing. And you can hear this conversation. The white boy says, "It's just a word. The N-word is just a word." And the black girl cries. She says, "How can you say it's just a word when it hurts me so much?" The headmaster tries to explain. The white headmaster tries to explain and says that no, we don't use the N-word here. We also don't say goddamn. And this makes the black girl even more outrageous. And she's more upset because the headmaster thinks that goddamn and the N-word are falling into the same category. And the same headmaster, in a later discussion, also recorded by a person, a non-binary person at that school who was bullied by a couple of boys in Southlake. She has a discussion with the headmaster, and the headmaster all the time tries to explain to her that it's not the fault of the boys, and the boys might be in a bad situation because imagine, and he says that, he really says that, imagine if they if they apply for a college and the application officer who sees the application of the boys sees that the boys were punished for using bad words against a non-binary person. If that person is a Democrat, imagine what could happen to those boys. And the non-binary person who allows her to call her she or they, she says, she cries, she's totally destroyed and devastated in that dialogue with the headmaster. She gets no help, she gets no ear, and this is so devastating to listen to, and it makes me so effing angry. An American listener that I am, listening to Southlake, having listened now to all 7 episodes, 6 and the bonus one, it really makes me fear and about American democracy in the future. They put so much effort into this, into stopping all this, that our white boys, white girls are not supposed to feel ashamed for the history. And they put so much effort in this, and this is national, this goes national, it goes on Fox News, what happens in Southlake, and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars are giving to people who are running for a school board to sort of prevent that critical race theory is being taught in Southlake, and so they turn around, they win by a landslide. So no critical race theory, which was never the meaning to teach critical race theory. The only meaning was to start a commission that helps students, that helps them to follow a certain code, and that respects people, the diverseness of the school. But this happens everywhere in America, apparently, that school boards are turned red. And Southlake gives an example also of the podcast of a white teacher in Tennessee who lost his job because he discussed an article by the National Book Award winner Ta-Nehisi Coates for not having represented a proper conservative opinion against Coates' article. Well, I don't have anything more to say. This was my first Sunday sum up. Sometimes it might get a little bit political, but most of the times not. The next video will be on Tuesday or Wednesday, where I present my super duper TBR for the next couple of months. Thanks for watching this video. Have a great Sunday wherever you are, and stay safe and don't get Omicron. Bye bye.